This will represent or will be, the third lesson, I suppose, is what I need to call them. The sharing of knowledge, what I call the offering. I'm offering this to you, to the world. On the subject of yoga philosophy, the philosophy of yoga, not the practice of the physical positions and physical attributes of the yoga studios that we're so familiar with or know of in the Western world. This is the philosophy of the East. This is the scholarly approach to the knowledge of the ancients, the wisdom of the ages. If you're going to feed your body with nutrients, if you're going to exercise your body with yogic movements, if you're going to improve your body with a good, healthy diet and good exercise and stretching and meditation and all of those requirements for the improvement, then you have to take into consideration the fact that why improve the body if you don't improve your knowledge base? The knowledge base is expanded upon by exposing yourself to higher knowledge that's outside of your normal routine of reading or watching the internet or going to basketball games or whatever you do. This is the old principle of mind and body. Improve the mind and you can keep the body in better shape. Improve the body and you can maintain the mind. So my participation in what I just mentioned is I'm here to help improve your mind and your body through my accumulated knowledge as a researcher, as a writer, as a student, as a practitioner of yoga philosophy that has about a 6,000 year history. They were practicing yoga, body and mind and intellect, almost 4,000 years before the Christ was born. The ancient practitioners of yoga, the ancient writers on the subject of yoga, the ancient students of yoga, and the ancient critics of yoga were going about their daily human activities while Rome was in its infancy, while London was a narrow, hutted village on the banks of the river, probably somewhere around Castle Hill, where Castle Hill is today. The Western world was still in its infancy, in its philosophy, its writings. Oxford had not been founded yet. Neither had Harvard or Yale or Brown University, Stanford. any of the prestigious, and some of them Ivy League, quote unquote, institutions of higher learning. They weren't even a dream in some old professor's mind. At that point in time, they were nothing. But yoga, and the practice of yoga, and the teaching of yoga, and the philosophy of yoga has done nothing but expand down through the millennium, through the centuries, through the decades, through the months and fortnights and weekly days, up to this point in which I find myself, which is July the 13th, at approximately 8:25 in the morning. It's a Sunday. Not being a practitioner of Christianity, I was in my younger days, my family was. But when I started doing comparative analysis of the myriad of mythologies of religions that exist on this earth, historically, prehistorically, antediluvian, before the flood, and after the flood. And fast forward to the modern world. When I started doing that comparison, I was looking for my home. The religion you grow up with, that generally is your parents' religion, if nowadays they even follow a religion, is generally the religion you adopt for life, generally. And so are their politics, and so are their social mannerisms, and so forth and so on. And that's the way of the world. I'm nothing against it. I'm not judging. I do not judge. For I am Sakshi, the witness of the world. I witness what is happening out there. And by doing these videos, I'll do a little bit of reporting, so to speak, here and there. But as I said, this is my obligation to the world before I leave this earth, leave this mortal plane, this vale of tears, and go to my eternal reward, which, not being a Christian, it's not the same thing that Christians have been told about and learned to believe in and learn to be faithful towards. My eternal reward is reuniting, and when I say my, I'm talking about my soul. Myself is my soul. I am my soul. I am speaking to you through my mortal body, my gross physical body, using the voice of the soul, that little voice, that inner quiet voice that whispers to you, don't do this, or hey, you did a great job. But no one else can hear it because it's the inner voice. Some people will call it this or that or the other. I see it as the conscience. Your consciousness is when you're awake and aware and interacting with life. That's consciousness. Well, what's the basis of your consciousness? Of course, it would have to be your conscious. It's with you all the time, except when you're in the third stage of consciousness, which is deep sleep. then it reverts back to its default setting, so to speak. I will use modern computer terminology because hopefully it's relatable and we're on the same page when I do this. So the default setting programming of the consciousness is just not worrying about anything, being calm, breathing, living in almost a dreamless state. It's just existing. So it's existing as a being, as an entity, in a state of bliss. And those three syllables, which actually make up a phrase in yoga, that old yogis pass on to their students, whether the student is listening or absorbing the knowledge or not, are sat, S-A-T, chit, C-H-I-T, ananda, A-N-A-N-A, ananda, A-N-A-N-D-A, ananda, sat, chit, ananda. It's hyphenated. 3 syllables, 2 hyphens between the first syllable and at the end of the second before the third. Sat Chit Ananda. Very important phrase. It means existence, consciousness, bliss. And that's what we are. That's what the soul is. It's an existing consciousness in a state of bliss. Well, human beings in general don't enjoy existence, consciousness, bliss. A lot of people, unfortunately, live a life of existence, consciousness, hell, or semi-hell, or pseudo-hell. And that's just a fact. I'm not judging them. I'm just referring to reality here. But I don't live in that world. I live in a blissful world. I smile, I laugh a lot, I make jokes, I make puns, rather bad ones. I do all of these things on a daily basis. And I'm sure some of my friends here in my retirement community get tired of me doing this, but I get tired of their frowns. I get tired of their endless, useless, baseless gossiping. But I don't judge them for it. I just am remarking on it because it is something I have witnessed as the Sakshi. Sakshi means the witness, and that's the name I have given to my soul, the Sakshi. I've also used that name as the author of my books. It's a pen name, just like Mark Twain, who was Samuel Langhorne Clemens, used Mark Twain. I use Sakshi. So all these lectures you are hearing on, once they are launched, these are still in the preparatory stages, once they are launched onto YouTube, which I'm working on that right now. Wow. I worked on it yesterday. I haven't worked on it today. After my morning routine, I sat down and, as I told you, it's rather early, and said, well, my mind is fresh, and I've already had a nice cup of ginseng tea, and which keeps the mind calm. And well, why not do a video if I'm going to start this program, not program, but this series on YouTube in the YouTube Creative Studio, which I've signed into now. I just haven't launched anything yet because, again, I'm learning. But I'm in no hurry. When you're almost 75, which I will be, and I keep mentioning this, and I know it's probably getting on some of the people that have heard the other videos so far, maybe it's getting on their nerves. But I think it's important that you know that who you're looking at and who you're listening to will be a 75-year-old man on September the 30th. So not old, not all old men at 75 are doddering around or in nursing homes, hooked up to IV tubes. Bless their souls, bless their hearts. I have kept a strict schedule and maintenance of my body and my mind most of my life. When I was young, I ran around Town Lake, which is here in Austin. It's now called Lady Bird Lake. I would do 6-mile runs. Well, jogs, actually. I never really ran. I jogged 6 miles after work, after putting in an 8 or 9 hour day, every day, and I did it for years. Well, I missed days here and there, but nobody's perfect, especially when you're abiding, living in a human body. It has its limitations. But the soul doesn't get tired. The soul doesn't get hungry. The closest the soul comes to being hungry it's more like thirsty. It thirsts to achieve the goal of moksha. What is moksha? Moksha is liberation. What is it being liberated from? It's being liberated from the body once the body cast off this old suit of clothes and returns to its maker. Who was its maker? It was Brahman, one of the trilogies of the mythological gods of Indian culture, Hindu culture, yogic culture, written about, thought about, examined, explored, and taught since the very earliest days of the Indus, I-N-D-U-S, Indus civilization, which has become, in later years, the country of India. The mind, the soul cannot feel heat, it cannot feel cold, it cannot be burnt, drowned, dragged about in a croaker sack. It cannot be mugged in an alley. It cannot go to the bank and deposit millions of dollars in illegitimate profits. It cannot do any of these things. It is merely the soul. It has no physical form. It has an ethereal form. It has the form of the spirit. There's another word for the soul. It is the spirit encased in your body, living in your body, being transported around by your body, witnessing what the senses of the body report to the brain, which moves on up to the mind, which moves on up to the intellect, and there's the soul as the overseer, so to speak, of this body, brain, mind, intellect complex. It's the overseer. It's also the witness. It does not directly interfere with any of your karma. Karma being actions. You can have negative actions or positive actions, but those are adjectives attributed to your karma because of what you do with your karma. What you do with your actions is either positive, negative, neutral, or shades of variation on that, like there's shades of colors between colors. So, if you don't mind, and I hope you don't, I'm going to take a teeny break in this video, but I'm going to complete it. It's the first time I've ever paused one and then come back to continue, but I'm going to complete it. I need to go get myself something to drink, and I'll be right back. And I am back. I simply got about a half a cup of water out of my faucet. I don't buy bottled water. I find the community water here in Austin, it doesn't have a sweet taste, it doesn't have a sour taste. It's just clean water. It's the same water I cook with, it's the same water I make my tea with, it's the same water I wash my clothes with. So if it's good enough for all of that, it's good enough for me to drink occasionally. And you do need to keep your body healthy. Your blood needs it, your digestive tract needs it, definitely your brain needs it. So you need to keep it from being thirsty. Don't ever allow yourself to be thirsty. Don't ever allow yourself to be too hungry unless you can't afford food at that moment in time. Again, I'm not judging. I'm just simply stating facts here. So, how does a normal human being nowadays, in the political environment we're in, and I'm not going to go into politics, I promise you I'm not, and the economic environment we're in at this moment in time, and I'm not going to go into that either. I'm just going to simply say I've seen better times. I saw them in the 50s, I saw them in the 60s, I saw them in the early 70s, the end of the 70s, the economy for the consumer went south, as they say nowadays. Inflation really rose. I remember the first business I bought, I was a businessman for several years, still practicing my yoga on the side, practicing my research on the side. My business was my vocation, my research and learning and practicing what I'd learned from the philosophy of yoga was my advocation. Painting has been my advocation. You can see some of my paintings on the wall behind me and on my easel. Reading is one of my avocations. Listening to YouTube music is one of my avocations. You can have multiple avocations, but it's rather hard, but nowadays I understand it's happening quite a bit. For people trying to keep their heads above water, you can also have several vocations, jobs. So as the Atman, A-T-M-A-N, all these words I'm saying, if you're new to listening to me, or if you've already heard several of these videos, I think this will be number 3 when it is finally on the channel, YouTube. If you've viewed any of those, you know that I add vocabulary during my informal lessons, my informal offerings of what I've learned all these years and what I intend to impart to the world, as much of it as I can, pass it on, so to speak, before I leave the world. I have no intention of leaving the world anytime soon, so I'm sure by the time there's an old Southern saying, I was born in Georgia, raised in Charleston, South Carolina, so that's the accent you're hearing, is a Charlestonian accent. Even though I've lived in Texas over 50 years, I haven't lost that accent. It's part of me, and I don't necessarily want to lose it. Sometimes I have to repeat myself to folks, but that's okay. Sometimes they have to repeat themselves to me. Again, I'm not judging any of this. I'm just simply stating my opinions. Anything I say that you might disagree with, remember, you're disagreeing with my opinion, and we still, up to this date, day and date, month and year, we still have freedom of speech in America. I'm a veteran. I was in the Air Force, out at the Air Force base that was here called Bergstrom. It's now Bergstrom International Airport. It's about a mile and a half east of where I live. I live in a retirement community, about 292 units. I have a very nice little apartment here. I'm the only person that's ever occupied this apartment. It was brand new. You could still smell the paint when I moved in. I keep the paint up. If I see a section of wall that needs repainting or cleaning, I try to gently clean it, then I paint it with the painted paint, the matching paint that's been supplied to me by the maintenance man. So I try to keep up appearances, so to speak. I try to keep up the appearance of my body. I try to be well groomed. I try to dress casually, but also a little on the upper side. You won't see me doing these videos in t-shirts and so forth. I think it's appropriate to dress appropriately when you're doing the appropriate thing. I think it makes you see me as more of a professional, so to speak, when I dress the way I do. And even if I were not talking to you today, I would still be dressing like this around the house. This is the way I dress. Now, if I'm painting, I have old shirts, some of my old shirts like this, that I have donated to the painter. That is one of the habits of my body. My body likes to paint. My mind likes to paint. And my soul likes to watch me paint. Myself likes to watch me, the body, paint. See, it's this separation. You've got to get this together now. It's the separation of the idea that you're merely this body that throws everybody off on the road to success in life. You're not the body. You are the soul encased in the body. The body is finite. It has come and it will go. But the chief operating executive, encased in the body, is a spark from the divine. It is a spark from the Creator, on loan to us by the Creator. He cannot be diminished. He cannot be improved. He is God. He loans us this spark, as I say in most of my videos, or I'm going to keep saving the first few to kind of drive that point home. He loans us this spark, just like a neighbor loans you his lawnmower for the weekend, so you can do your grass because yours is in the shop. But you are expected to return it to the person from whom you borrowed it in good repair. And when you say you're going to return it, well, we have no say in when we're going to depart the body. That's not our choice. But we do have a say in whether or not we treat our Creator with respect by respecting the soul that's within us and working with that soul. Well, how do you work with your soul? How do you get in contact with your soul? How do you befriend your soul? I'm talking about the body now. I'm talking about the mind and the intellect and the brain. How does the brain, the mind, and the intellect get in contact with the chief executive officer, so to speak? You go, well, you can't visit your soul. You can't converse with your soul. Well, you actually can. I do it all the time. I promise you. I, the body, I'm speaking now as the human being, I contact my body, my soul all the time. And it contacts me all the time. Again, it's that still, quiet, whispering voice that admonishes you when you're doing wrong and congratulates you when you're doing good. And the reason you don't want to do wrong is because that's the bad side of karma. That's the negative side of action. The reason you do want to be good, that's the positive side of karma, because it's a positive action. And karma operates, the function of karma is affected by good input or bad input. So that's why you hear the common phrase, oh, karma, oh, he can keep on being that way, but karma's coming to visit one of these days. Well, it's not karma. If you plant half-rotten seeds, don't expect a glorious oak tree of 300 years later. If you plant nice little healthy seeds in healthy soil and you give it a healthy amount of attention, and you water it properly and shade it properly, and if the little stalk is coming up, the trunk is coming up and it's a little wobbly, you put a stake in the ground not to affect its roots, and you put a support around the stake in the little growing oak tree, and that keeps it from being blown over in high winds. And you've seen this in some people's yards. They have a protective barrier around the new trees. They do that for a reason. They want that tree to grow up healthy and strong. So they're caring in regards to even a little plant like that. They show emotions, positive emotions, towards the care of that plant. That's called empathy. When you show care towards something that may or not be, well, usually is in trouble, or in sorrow, or is in dire straits, as a human being, with a human heart and a human consciousness, you should show empathy, not sympathy. If you see a car wreck along the side of the road, you don't run up and start crying and say, oh, I'm showing sympathy for these poor souls that were involved in that car wreck. You don't show sympathy for them, you show empathy. Empathy involves helping. It's the emotion that manifests care, helping, and concern. So learn to be empathetic in life. I'm very empathetic towards the world, towards my neighbors, towards friends, family, old friends, and even friends that never call me anymore. That's okay. They're busy. I'm busy. Some of the older ladies that live here, they go, oh, my grandson never calls. My children never visit. I say, well, didn't you tell me your son owns a company? And she said, oh, yeah, he owns a company. I go, well, do you think he might be a bit busy with his employees and the day-to-day operations of that company? Oh, I thought I had something on my eye. So I just tried to gently suggest things they can do. And the suggestion is have empathy towards their life. When you were young, you were busy. You didn't always call your mom or your grandmother or your grandfather or even your Aunt Matilda, who always sent you $5 in those days. In my day, $5 was a lot of money. Because Coca-Colas were only a nickel when I was a child. So $5, what's that? That's 20 times 5. That's 100 Coca-Colas. So $5 was a lot of money. $5 was a lot of money. Sorry, not $5. Your children are your children. They're not your kids. A kid is a baby goat. A dollar bill is a dollar bill. It's not a buck. Money, and I've written this in some of my papers and some of my writings, money is crystallized energy. The energy that you put out in whatever form, trading, working, investing, that brings enough return as a profit. Anything, the money is crystallized energy. The energy you put out to receive money in return is that energy crystallized in a piece of paper with a dead president's face on it, except for Ben Franklin, he was not a president, and except for Chase, he was not a president. So these dollar bills and 150s and whatever have these expired leaders engraved on them. And they represent crystallized energy. That's why a person with a lot of money is more powerful than a person with no money, because they're walking around or have in their possession or have in their ability to reach rather easily, or sometimes not easily, in savings or whatever. They have the energy of their labor or other people's labors stored in the form of the transmuted energy into hard currency, so to speak. And that's what money is. But let's get away from, I said I wouldn't get into economics. Well, I did there for a second. But I wasn't teaching how badly the economy is going or how well the economy is going. I was just simply passing on an old man's knowledge about what money is and how it should be respected and how it should be properly earned. If it's improperly earned, you are adding into. I separated into two visible, concrete concepts for you. The good karma you earn, I say it goes into the bank of good karma. The bad karma you earn, and I'm coming up with this on the fly, this is evolving right now in my mind, so I'm still coming to the proper terminology for it. The bad karma you earn is stored in the back room of the courthouse before you are a judge, so to speak. Yes, it's in a storage room in the courthouse. Or at a jail, it's in the evidence locker. No offense to people that are in jail or they're going to jail or whatever. I am no saint, I promise you. I am a sage. I'm a wise old man. That's not brag, that's just fact. But I'm also here to teach, so let's get back to the subject. So now what has happened is you've learned about karma and the banks and the evidence locker and yeah, I like that one better. I'll use that. I've never really taught a course on the subject of yoga philosophy, so I'm, I'm kind of winging it here. I'm flying by the seat of my pants, as they used to say. I'm driving a car without an instructor. I'm still moving around on my learner's permit without an adult in the car. Oh, Lord, excuse me, Lord, for I'm not trying to make fun of anybody or anything. As the witness, you cannot judge. You cannot participate even. A witness did not participate in what he witnessed. He just simply was the witness. And when he's called to the stand, he's bound to tell the truth, both to the prosecuting attorney and the defending attorney. He's there to help set the record straight. Well, I'm here to help set the lives of the people that want to come and listen to me straight if they're young and inexperienced and they think their lives may be going askew. If you are not on the right path, which is, I will repeat the word again, so it'll slowly but surely sink into my listeners' vocabularies. If you're not on the right path, which is Dharma, the path is Dharma, that's the righteous path, that's the narrow path. I call it the razor's edge because it's not an easy thing to stay on that little line and go through life in an honorable and honest way. That's Dharma. Karma, I just mentioned a moment ago. So they're like fraternal twins. They're not identical, but they're born from the same concept. They share a lot of the same traits because they were probably not conceived at the same time, these two ideas, but they're in lockstep. On the road of Dharma, the path of Dharma, if you get off the path and fall into the ditch and you're down there, with party friends and y'all are all boozing it up and doing whatever they do, want to do, and I'm not judging them because that's just part of youth and part of a misspent life, in my opinion. A misspent life. If you just keep partying to, it either takes you to the grave or it takes you to the hospital in a nursing home. Well, that's your choice. That's your karma. That's also the path you chose in life while traveling down the road of Dharma. So they're eternally linked, karma dharma. Karma Dharma. They're like, even phonetically and even in spelling, they're like cousins. Let's call them cousins. That's a good idea. I like that. And so here we are, and you want to go with researching the words I've spelt to you, spelt, not spelled, spelt to you. And you want to, the two sources I recommend to everyone, and I get no compensation for this. I want no compensation for anything. I'm comfortable. I don't need exterior compensation, out of the world compensation. But it's Yogipedia and Wikipedia. Those two, you can research anything I have said to you to see the truthfulness in my words and in my opinions on these subjects. And do it or don't do it. That's up to you, of course. But you can also rewind these tapes, these videos, and revisit them. The books I mentioned here, those are just suggestions. Everything I say to you is a suggestion. Because listen to me or not listen to me, I am still Sakshi.